In a quiet suburban neighborhood, on a bright and sunny day, there was a peculiar sight that caught the attention of anyone passing by. Right in the middle of a lush, green, grassy patch stood a cluster of shiny, pointed metal stakes, sharp, conical spears planted tightly side by side like an angry fence. They gleamed under the sun, almost as if they were warning the world to stay away. A man sat crouched on the grass facing directly at the scene. He was middle-aged, with light skin that reflected the warm sunlight, and his casual dark shirt and light-colored pants made him look like someone who wasn't too concerned about the world's worries. In his hands, he held a simple coffee mug, as if this was just an ordinary moment in his day. But nothing about this scene was ordinary. Behind him, a gray SUV was parked, steam or spray water rising from it in slow, lazy bursts. It looked like the vehicle had just finished some kind of work or repair, though nothing about the scene suggested anything routine. The stakes, the sign, and the mysterious vehicle all hinted at something strange, something just beneath the surface of this peaceful neighborhood. In the foreground, a bright red sign was planted firmly in the earth. It read, "Private, no passing, Floridon." In bold letters, warning outsiders to stay away. Yet the man sitting there seemed to be studying the stakes intently, as if trying to decipher a secret buried within them. The scene was simple, but carried an odd tension, like a story waiting to unfold. The stakes weren't just metal, they looked like they had a purpose, and the man's quiet demeanor suggested he knew more than he was letting on. Was he the guardian of this strange barrier? Or perhaps it was something he wanted to keep hidden. As the breeze gently rustled the grass and the sunlight played across the scene, a faint sense of suspense grew. Something about that barrier, the man, and the steam from the SUV made it clear that this was no ordinary day in the neighborhood. There was a story here, and it was just beginning to unravel. The man took a slow sip from his coffee mug, his eyes fixed on the cluster of stakes. The way he stared at them suggested he was searching for something, perhaps a clue, a memory, or even a warning. The stakes looked ordinary at first glance, but there was something about their arrangement, their density, that made the air around them feel tense. It was as if they were meant to keep someone or something in or out, though what exactly remained a mystery. He shifted slightly on his crouch, glancing toward the gray SUV in the background. The steam was still drifting lazily upward, curling into the clear blue sky. The vehicle seemed out of place in this peaceful neighborhood, almost like a visitor from another world. The driver's side door was ajar, and the faint sound of water, dripping, could be heard, echoing softly against the quiet street. The man's gaze hardened as he finally set the mug down on the grass beside him. His brow furrowed as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. Carefully, he unfolded it, revealing a handwritten note and a rough sketch of the stakes and the surrounding area. The note read, "They're watching. Be careful. Trust no one." The words sent a shiver down his spine, and he looked around nervously as if expecting to see someone lurking nearby. He knew why he was here. This wasn't an accident or a casual stop. Years ago, he'd stumbled upon stories of strange barriers, like this. Barriers meant to hide something dangerous or valuable. And now, after all this time, he had finally found one in his own neighborhood. The stakes weren't just metal. They were a warning, a shield, a trap. Suddenly, a faint noise caught his attention. A soft rustling from behind the shrubbery nearby. His heart skipped a beat. He quickly looked around, scanning the trees and bushes, but saw nothing. Just the peaceful, sunlit street, yet he felt the weight of unseen eyes watching him. He clenched, his fists feeling the rough texture of the stakes against his fingertips. This was no ordinary fence. It was a barrier that had likely kept someone or something contained. Something that might have been dangerous or perhaps misunderstood. His mind raced with questions. Who had put these stakes here? Why? And most importantly, what was hidden beyond this line? He remembered the stories his grandfather used to tell him about secrets buried in the most unlikely places, about powers that protected or cursed those who dared to look too closely. He wondered if the stakes were part of some ancient safeguard, or if they were simply a modern-day warning, a line drawn to keep trouble out or in. Just then, the water from the SUV's steam or spray suddenly stopped. The engine emitted a quiet chime, and the vehicle's door swung shut with a definitive click. The quiet returned, almost too quiet. The man took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He knew he couldn't stay here forever. Whatever was behind those stakes, or beyond them, was waiting. He reached into his pocket again, this time pulling out a small black device. It looked like an old phone but had strange markings on its surface. He hesitated for a moment, then pressed a button. A faint beep sounded and a tiny light flickered to life. That was his signal, an indication that he was ready to move forward, to uncover what lay hidden in this strange barrier. As he stood up carefully, the stakes seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, almost alive with quiet energy, with a determined look. He stepped closer, carefully examining the nearest stake. His fingers brushed against the cool metal, and for a moment he felt a strange jolt, almost as if the stakes had reacted to his touch. He realized that whatever was behind this barrier was more than just physical. It was something that had a presence, perhaps an ancient force or a secret kept safe for generations. And if he was brave enough, or foolish enough to cross that line, he might discover truths that could change everything. But for now, he stood, still, watching. The stakes, the sign, the steaming SUV, all of it was part of a story that was only just beginning to unfold. And he knew, deep down, that whatever came next would be more dangerous and more revealing than anything he had ever encountered before. The man's fingers hovered just above the nearest stake, feeling the cool, smooth surface beneath his fingertips. The strange jolt he experienced was gone as quickly as it had appeared, but it left behind a prickling sensation that crawled up his spine. The stakes seemed ordinary, yet they radiated an unexplainable energy, as if they were alive with secrets, waiting to be uncovered. He took a cautious step back and examined the area more closely. The stakes formed a dense barrier, impenetrable at first glance, yet there was something about their arrangement that told him they weren't just random metal spikes driven into the ground. No, they looked purposeful, almost as if they marked the boundary of something sacred or forbidden. His eyes drifted toward the sign again. The bold red letters, the words, "Private, no passing, Floridon," sounded like a warning, but also a challenge. Why had someone gone to the trouble of erecting such a barrier here? And more importantly, what was hidden on the other side? Suddenly, a faint flicker caught his eye, a glimmer in the corner of his vision. He turned sharply, scanning the bushes and trees bordering the grassy patch. Nothing moved, yet he felt an uneasy sensation, like being watched by unseen eyes. His pulse quickened. The quiet hum of the neighborhood now seemed unnaturally loud in his ears. He reached into his pocket again, this time clutching a small device, a compact metal box with blinking lights, a piece of equipment he'd brought, along for moments just like this. He tapped a few buttons, and a faint, almost inaudible signal emanated from it. The device was meant to detect anomalies, energy fluctuations, hidden signals, anything out of the ordinary. Now, its tiny screen flickered with strange readings, confirming what he had suspected. Something beyond normal was happening here. A sudden movement behind the stakes made him freeze. It was slight, a shadow slipping behind the metal spikes, disappearing almost instantly. His breath caught in his throat. Was it a person, an animal, or something else entirely? His mind raced with possibilities. Whatever it was aware of him, just as he was now aware of it. He stepped back slowly, trying not to disturb the fragile calm. The stakes, the sign, the SUV, Everything seemed to pulse with a quiet tension. Whatever was beyond that barrier had been hidden for a reason, and whatever was watching him now was probably not friendly. He looked toward the vehicle again. The engine was silent now, the steam gone. The driver had either left or was waiting, in silence. None of this made sense, yet it all pointed to one thing. Someone or something was guarding that secret, and he was right in the middle of it. He knew he couldn't turn away now. Something about this place called to him, like a whisper from an old friend or a warning from an ancient guardian. He had come too far to back out. Carefully, he took a step closer to the stakes, his eyes narrowing as he studied their pattern. Once more. His hand reached out tentatively, brushing the metal again. This time, he felt a faint vibration, a hum that seemed to resonate from within the barrier itself. It was as if the stakes were part of a living system, a complex web of energy that responded to his touch. His heart pounded as a new thought struck him. What if this barrier wasn't just physical? What if it was a shield, one that protected something far more valuable or dangerous than anyone could imagine? And what if the person who had set it up was still nearby, watching him even now? He looked around one last time, then lowered himself into a crouch. Whatever lay beyond that line held answers that he needed desperately. With a deep breath, he prepared himself to cross the invisible boundary, knowing that once he stepped over it, nothing would ever be the same again. The stakes seemed to shimmer again, catching the sunlight like they were alive, waiting for him to make his move. And as he hesitated, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper floated on the breeze. Somewhere nearby, a voice, or perhaps a memory, softly whispered, "Be careful what you seek." The whisper lingered in the air, as if carried by the breeze, itself urging him to proceed with caution. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the small device in his pocket, activating it once more. The screen flickered with intensifying readings, strange energy signatures pulsating just beyond the barrier, almost alive with purpose. Whatever lay past the stakes was no ordinary hidden object. It was something with a consciousness, something that responded to his presence. He took a deep breath, steeling himself against the growing tension. Every instinct told him he was treading into dangerous territory, yet curiosity burned brighter than fear. He knew this was the moment. If he hesitated now, he might never uncover the truth. Carefully, he moved his hand toward the nearest stake, inspecting it for any signs of weakness or vulnerability. The metal was cool and smooth, yet beneath its surface he could feel a faint, rhythmic pulse, a heartbeat almost, throbbing in tandem with his own. It was as if the barrier was more than just metal. It was a conduit, a guardian of something precious or perilous. Suddenly, the ground beneath. His feet vibrated softly and a faint glow emanated from the base of the stakes. His eyes widened. Was it possible that the barrier was actively responding to him? Or had something beyond the stakes begun to stir? He hesitated only for a moment before stepping forward, crossing the invisible threshold. As he did, the energy signatures on his device spiked wildly and the stakes shimmered brighter, casting an eerie glow over the scene. The air grew thick with anticipation. Somewhere deep within the barrier, a quiet voice or presence seemed to awaken, watching him, carefully. He moved slowly, each step deliberate, feeling the strange vibrations resonate through his bones. The barrier's surface felt alive, almost breathing, like a living membrane guarding a sacred secret. His mind raced with questions. Was this a safeguard, a prison, or perhaps a gateway? Then, suddenly, a flicker of movement caught his eye, from the corner of his vision. A shadow darted behind the stakes, faster than he could track. His heart pounded and he froze in place. Was it a person, an animal, or something else entirely? The shadow seemed to dissolve into the shadows again, leaving behind only a faint ripple in the air. He steadied his breath and looked around, sensing that whatever was behind the barrier was aware of him now, perhaps even more aware than he realized. His gaze settled on the darkened line where the stakes ended, and beyond that, an unknown world awaited. He knew he had to decide, turn back and abandon his quest, or press forward into the unknown. The stakes, the sign, the strange energy, they all pointed to one truth. Something extraordinary was hidden beyond, and he was on the verge of uncovering it. As he took a tentative step closer, the barrier pulsed once more, brighter than before, as if welcoming, or warning, him to proceed. Carefully, the whisper returned, softer this time, but no less urgent. What you seek may change everything. A shiver ran down his spine. Carefully, he reached out again, ready to confront whatever lay beyond, knowing that crossing this invisible line would lead him into a story far greater than he had ever imagined, one filled with secrets, danger, and perhaps salvation. And so, he stepped forward into the unknown, the stakes glowing like silent sentinels, holding their secrets tight, waiting for the right moment to reveal what they had guarded for so long.